All right, so starting off with this first section, I have quite a bit of citrus trees growing over here. So I have 13 citrus trees in total. 12 of them are growing in containers. So I have one citrus tree in the ground. It's a Republic of Texas orange tree. So during the last frost, we had quite a bit of an unusual large amount of snow for Houston, Texas. So that snow pretty much didn't really kill that orange tree, but it damaged it pretty much, and the top portion of the tree died. So the bottom portion is alive, but it set me back probably a couple years. So that being said, from now on, I'm only growing in containers. So when it comes to growing my citrus trees in containers, I am going with a 25-gallon container now. You can do a 15 to 20-gallon, but I think the 25 is going to give me more space. It is super heavy, so when I move it into the garage for the winter, I'm going to need to use a dolly, but I'll be able to move it, just take a little extra space. So when it comes to filling the soil, I use a cheaper compost. It's around 1 cubic foot for the bottom. That's normally cost me $4.99. It comes in 2 cubic foot bags, but I only need about half of it per container. And then the rest of it, I use a premium fruit tree mix from a company called Heirloom Soils. So they're local to Houston, but they have a ton of premium ingredients. And this mix is made for citrus trees and other fruit tree mixes. And plus, I add some Fox Farm organic citrus tree mix for these trees. So it normally takes around 3 cubic feet to 3.5 cubic feet to fill up these containers. So when it comes to the varieties, there's a red navel orange right here. So this is a mutation from the regular Washington navel. And then we have a hand of Buddha. So the hand of Buddha is mainly used to make candy and zest. So if you're looking for something unique and a cool, different type of citrus, I would go with this. I can't wait to harvest the fruit. I think I might have some fruit from it this year. It flowered, so we'll see if it's going to produce some fruit. And then this one is the clementine, which is basically like a smaller mandarin type orange. And then we have a blood orange and a Meyer lemon over here. And then we have a Persian lime too, which is more of the bigger kind of limes you might see in the grocery store. And then this peach tree is flowering. So I won this peach tree last year. I went to this event, a local event where they were giving away fruit trees, and I won the last tree they had, which was a peach tree, but they didn't know the variety because they lost the tag. But it's flowering right now, so we'll see if I get some peaches. But I'm not holding my breath. But that one's in a whiskey barrel. So let's move on to other parts of the garden to show you more fruit trees I'm growing. Again, most of my fruit trees are growing in containers. So most of my fruit trees are growing in containers or pots, but I actually have a couple fruit trees growing in a raised bed like you see right here. So this is a really unique raised bed from Vegega Garden. This is their castle shaped raised bed. And what I like about this raised bed is I'm able to grow fruit trees and vegetables in the same raised bed. So in the castle or the tower sections of the raised bed, I'm growing fruit trees, and then in the middle you can grow some vegetables. So this is a Granny Smith apple, and then we have a Sundowner apple. So the thing about growing apple trees and other types of similar trees is that you need a certain amount of chill hours each year. So that's the amount of hours that the tree needs to grow in dormancy from 32 degrees to 45 degrees. So if it doesn't get a certain amount of chill hours each year, it probably won't produce fruit. So the Granny Smith needs 400 to 500 chill hours each year while it's in dormancy before it wakes up in the spring. And then the Sundowner needs 200 to 300 hours of chill hours each year. So if you live in an area that doesn't really get cold or doesn't get a ton of chill hours, again, temperature 32 to 45 degrees, you might want to go with this tree because this only needs 200 to 300 hours, where this needs 400 to 500 hours. but Houston typically gets around 450-ish. So some years the Granny Smith might not give me fruit, and other years it might. Whereas this Sundowner is most likely going to give me fruit every single year. So the next two fruit trees I want to show you are two more citrus trees growing in some of these 25-gallon containers. So right here on my left, I have a Washington Navel, and then on my right, I have a Dancy Tangerine. So I bought these citrus trees and some of the other ones I have in my garden from Costco back in late February for only $29.99. So that's an incredible deal. To just give you a little bit of some reference, my local nursery normally sells trees half the size and about twice as much. So $29.99 was a really good deal compared to around $65 or more for a tree half the size at my local nursery. So if you want to check that video out, I have this video where I show all the trees I got at Costco back in February. So go check out that video next. So this next fruit tree is one of my favorite trees I have growing in my garden. This is an apple tree, but it's not just like any other apple tree because it has 4 different varieties grafted onto this one tree. So there's an Anna apple graft, there's a Fuji, a Dorset, and a Gordon, all grafted onto this one tree. So I bought this tree last year from a nursery up in North Houston called JRN. So if you're around the Houston area, you should go check them out. But what's really cool is, like I said, I got this tree last year, and apple trees produce fruit really quickly. So I have a ton of apples on this tree. So I also have another apple tree growing in a whiskey barrel right next to it. So this other apple is a ghost apple. What's cool about the ghost apple is that it can tolerate really hot weather. So if you live in a warmer climate, look into that ghost apple variety. All right, so moving on to more fruit trees I have growing in my garden. This is a variegated Eureka pink lemonade lemon tree. So I'm pretty excited for this tree because it looks like there's little fruits developing on this plant right now. So I'm pretty excited to be able to harvest the fruit and taste them for the first time. But the cool thing about this tree is that the leaves are variegated, so it has this really cool pattern on the leaves, but the fruit itself is actually pink. And then right next to it, I have a coffee tree. I have 2 coffee trees growing in my garden. So coffee plants, they need acidic soil. So if you don't live in a tropical zone, and especially if you don't have acidic soil, you're going to have to grow them in containers. So I just create an acidic soil mix, which I use pine bark. You can use peat moss and add acidic fertilizer, but pine bark is actually acidic. So I always add pine bark to my coffee tree mix, and I add lava sand, which adds iron, which is really good for coffee plants. So again, I have 2 of these. So when you harvest the little cherries from the coffee plant, you take the seed and then you roast the seed, and that's what becomes the coffee bean. And then right next to these 2 trees, I have a little bonus to show you. This is a dragon fruit. So I actually have this specialized planter, this dragon fruit planter right here, which I'm growing my dragon fruit in. So there's 3 different varieties growing in this planter. So if you want to check out and find out more information about the dragon fruit I'm growing, I have a video where I set up this planter and I show you the varieties I'm growing. So the thing about dragon fruit is that they only flower at night, and they're normally pollinated by bats or moths. So if you don't have those specialized pollinators in your area, you're going to have to come out at night while the fruit flowers to hand pollinate. So just keep that in mind if you want to grow dragon fruit. So you know what I like about this citrus tree right here? So this is a sweet kumquat. You can actually eat the whole fruit, seeds and skin and all, but this is a sweet kumquat, which is different from the tart kumquat. So this is a little more rarer and hard to find. Not necessarily rare, but definitely more uncommon. You're going to have a harder time finding the sweet variety versus the tart variety. So that being said, this is in a 15-gallon container, so I'll probably end up upgrading it to one of those 25-gallon containers like you see some of my other citrus trees in. So have you ever had a fruit from the grocery store and thought about growing that seed into a tree? Well, that's what I did last year. So I had this mango and I'm like, well, I'm going to try to propagate this seed. So that's what I did. And I have this little mango tree now. So I was growing it outside and around the summer. And then once the winter hit, I took it inside and pretty much babied this little tree because this is a tropical tree. And then once spring came around and things started warming up again, I repotted it the other day. So when winter rolls around again, I'm going to have to baby this little tree again. So when temperatures probably drop, I think below 40, that's when I'm either going to want to take this tree in the garage or inside. But yeah, so this tree basically started from a seed I had from the grocery store. So I'm pretty excited to see how this tree grows and how long it might take to produce fruit from this little mango tree. So then right next to this mango tree, I have another bonus for you guys. These are some more fruiting cactuses. This is a Peruvian apple cactus, and then we have a Montrose apple cactus. So the Montrose apple cactus is a mutation from the Peruvian apple cactus. So if you want to watch videos to learn more about the Peruvian apple cactus and the Montrose apple cactus, you can check out those videos next. But I have a couple videos about the Peruvian apple cactus and one video so far about the Montrose apple cactus. So go check those videos out next. So the next fruit tree I want to show you is another citrus. So like I said, I have 13 citrus trees growing in my garden, and most of them are growing in containers. So this is a rolling planter, and what's really cool, this is pretty much designed for citrus trees. I'll have a link in the description if you want to check out one of these planters out. But this is an Arctic frost satsuma. So these trees can take temperatures down to 20 degrees. And during that last frost I had, I kept this tree outside. I just covered it and then it was fine. It had a little bit of damage, but overall the tree is healthy and it bounced back as soon as temperatures started to warm up in spring. But like I said, this is a rolling planter, so it'll be really easy for you to roll it out from either your patio, your garden, and right into the garage to give it that extra protection if temperatures drop below a certain point. So I may have a small space, but as you can see, I'm growing a ton of fruit trees in my small backyard. This next fruit tree I want to show you is a Texas pink pomegranate. So this is my second pomegranate. I have another pomegranate that's growing in the ground. This one is in a whiskey barrel. So I planted this tree last year, but that first pomegranate over that's in the ground behind me, I planted quite a few years ago. I think in 2017 or 2018, but I don't quite remember. But I think that one's a wonderful pomegranate. And again, and this one right here is a Texas pink. So all that being said, even though I've been growing that first pomegranate for many years now, it still really hasn't produced fruit. It had some fruit last year, but the fruit dropped. So I don't know if it's just difficult to grow pomegranates in Texas or if it's just my microclimate, but let me know in the comments if you guys grow pomegranates and have been successful at getting fruit here in Texas, especially closer to Houston, Texas. But hopefully as time moves on, I'll get some pomegranates from these two trees. So if you want a fast producing fruit tree that's going to have a quick turnaround and give you fruit pretty quickly, you should grow a fig tree. So I planted this tree 3 seasons ago and it was producing fruit on the second season. So that's a pretty quick turnaround. This is a Celeste fig, and when I planted this tree, it was probably like maybe 2 feet tall, and it quickly just exploded. I planted it in this whiskey barrel, and it just completely broke through the bottom of the whiskey barrel and took over. So this tree is getting more and more massive each year. Considering that this tree is growing on its 3rd season and it's already producing fruit, that's pretty incredible. And I can't wait to show you guys the fruit I'm growing on this tree coming later this season. But that being said, there are some fruit on this tree. I just expect more to develop as the weeks progress. So the next fruit tree I want to show you is this avocado tree. So avocados, when they're young, they need a lot of shade. So that's a good thing about having this fig tree right here. It creates some shade and protection for this young avocado tree. So avocado trees, they also need protection from frost while they're young. So once they mature around 5 to 8 years, they're going to be more cold hardy, and then you can plant them in the ground. But for the first 5 to 8 years of their life, they need to be grown in containers so you can take them inside and protect them against any frost. Alright guys, so I added a couple new fig trees to my garden the other day too. This is a ruby fig. It's a dwarf variety, but it's also supposed to have like a berry-like taste. So I'm pretty excited, looking forward to tasting these figs because figs are some of my favorite fruit and they're super easy to grow, but I definitely recommend checking out and looking out for this variety right here. But the great thing about this variety is that they're really easy to grow in containers. And then right next to it on my left, I have that Republic of Texas orange tree that I told you about earlier that got really damaged from that frost. Alright, so moving on to some more fruit trees I have growing in my garden. I have another new fig tree. So I have 4 fig trees growing in my backyard. This is another tree I just planted the other day with that ruby fig. This is a Flanders fig, so you may joke and say stupid Flanders or something like that, but I don't think this tree has anything to do with the Simpsons, but it's fun to joke. So that being said, this is supposed to be one of the best tasting figs that you can grow. The other cool thing is that it produces fruit like twice a year. So I have it growing in another whiskey barrel. It probably will break through this whiskey barrel too, but that's not really a big deal. It's going to help the tree grow, and I expect this tree to get and be really healthy in the coming years. And I think there might even be figs developing now. There's a little, I don't know if it's a leaf coming out or if it's a new fig, but we'll see. But like I said, figs, they produce, like I said, fig trees produce figs pretty quickly. And then right next to it, we have a key lime. This is also called a bartender lime. So it's those smaller limes you always see in the grocery store. So again, just like the other trees, you can grow this type of citrus tree, this key lime, in at least a 15-gallon. But I'll probably end up upgrading it as the tree goes on into one of those, either a 20 or a 25-gallon container. So if you're looking for a peach tree that you can easily grow in a container, you should look into one of these bonfire peach trees. So this is a pretty unique tree. It's mainly grown for its ornamental reasons because of the red branches, the red leaves, and all of these pink flowers. But that being said, you can still eat the fruit from this tree, even though it's an ornamental tree. The fruit is just a little more tough and smaller. So considering the fruit's a little tough, it's probably better to bake with the fruit than to eat it raw. So again, these trees are really good trees to grow in containers, and they only need around 400 to 500 chill hours each year. So again, I get around 450. So some years I may not get fruit, some years I may get fruit from this tree. But even that, you know, this is mainly grown for ornamental reasons, and the bees are going to love this tree. So these next 2 fruit trees I want to show you are 2 tropical trees I have growing in some of those 25-gallon containers. So considering that they're tropical trees, they like warmer weather and not cold weather. When temperatures drop below 40 degrees, I'm going to have to get the dolly and move it into the garage to protect it against cold weather. So this first tree I have on my left is a purple star apple. It's supposed to have a creamy tropical taste, and when you cut the fruit in the middle, it looks like a star shape. And then this tree right here is a star fruit. So it has a similar taste to a citrus tree. It's definitely not a citrus tree, but as you can see, the leaves are kind of yellowing. So it was in a greenhouse environment, and I took it out of that environment, repotted it, so it basically got a big shock. But I expect this tree to bounce back. The other thing you should look out for when you're looking for a star fruit is that make sure you get the sweet variety and not a tart variety. Alright guys, so those are all the fruit trees I'm growing in my garden. I think I counted around 35 trees in this small space. Drop a comment and let me know what trees you're growing in your garden, or if you have any questions about growing fruit trees. But if you found any information in this video helpful, please consider leaving a like and subscribing for more gardening videos. Until the next time, I'll catch you on the flip side of the garden. Thanks for watching.